Let me start with a pattern I see constantly. Most business owners know they have a people problem. They got turnover, they got low motivation, managers who can't quite get teams to perform, high performers who leave out of nowhere, employees who do just enough to get by. But in many cases, it's not a problem with the employees. What they actually have is a leadership problem. Perhaps more specifically, a leadership understanding problem. They don't really know what's going on with their people until something breaks, someone quits, someone disengages, performance slips, morale drops. And the reaction is always the same when you ask your managers what's going on. I didn't see that coming. They never said anything. I thought things were fine. Here's the truth: it wasn't sudden, it just wasn't visible. You didn't know about it. And today, I want to talk to you about one of the most underdevelopment leadership processes I see in small and mid sized businesses, and one of the most simple tools that fixes it. It's called a stay interview. There's a lot on stay interviews, and some do them as an HR tactic or a gimmick. It is instead something that can be incorporated into your leadership operating system that will solve a lot of these problems. Let's let's zoom out for a minute. There are a lot of things managers are expected to do well. They balance workloads, coordinate schedules, they handle client issues and escalations, they monitor quality, they discipline when needed, they reward high performers. Most managers get pretty good at those things, especially the operational parts. But one function of management that is almost never systematized, and that's understanding your people. What actually motivates them, what drains them, what they care about, what they're quietly frustrated by, what keeps them showing up at your job, and what might eventually push them out the door. If you don't know what your direct report wants that they don't have right now, that if someone else offered them, they'd drop you in a heartbeat, then you probably don't know your employees that well. You know that for you. We just kind of hope managers figure this out on their own, and when they don't, we act surprised. Most employees by default are probably giving you 20 to 30% of their discretionary effort. That's a reality. It's not laziness, it's just human behavior. But when people feel trusted, understood, aligned, supported, excited, that effort can double or even triple, especially in moments of growth or crisis. But that level of effort doesn't come from perks or motivational speeches or even comp plans. It primarily comes from leadership that understands the human being behind the role. And most managers don't have a structured way to do that instead. A lot of companies try to address this with an annual performance review. And look, performance reviews have their place, but they're backward looking, stressful, and often disconnected from what actually drives engagement and retention. Performance management is a performance tool for driving behavior, for driving competence. Engagement and retention is a different tool. You don't want to judgment and evaluation and getting a little defensive is not where you're going to get engagement, where you're going to discipline people. Exit interviews are of no use in this case, of course, because if you get them, which is rare that they get you any useful information, they happen after the decision is made. You're collecting data when it's already too late to act. So get rid of those, or don't focus on those for engagement and retention, and management and leadership. Focus instead on the stay interview. Okay. So I want to be clear about who this is for. If you're an owner who manages managers, this is not about you personally meeting with every employee forever. Your leverage is teaching your managers how to do this well. Because when managers know how to have these conversations, leadership quality becomes more consistent across the organization. Blind spots shrink, high performers are noticed earlier, disengagement shows up sooner, turnover becomes proactive instead of reactive. So we want to push this down to your management track. So let's get practical. I'm going to walk you through exactly how to run a stay interview, what to say, what to ask, what to listen for. And this is based primarily on a simple quarterly structure that's been recommended for years by executive coach Marshall Goldsmith and others, and then refined through real world use. You don't need a script, but especially at a larger organization, you want consistency. So we're going to identify specific questions, give a few alternatives, make sure we're getting to the key intention, which you need your managers and employees to understand. So, number one, you open the meeting. You're starting with where the company is heading. This is about context. You don't need a vision speech, but you need a short, plain language updates. Here's what it sounds like. Here's what I see as the most important things for this company over the next few months. Here's where we're focusing our energy for this quarter. Here's what success looks like right now for our team, where we're going. And then you ask, how does that direction land with you? What feels clear? What feels unclear? What are you thinking? And then you listen. This should be 1 minute of you talking, a question, and then listening. What you're listening for is confusion, skepticism, or disengagement. Because if someone doesn't understand or believe in the direction, motivation erodes fast. Even great employees drift when the destination feels fuzzy. And if your managers cannot articulate where you're going in the next quarter, well, you need to have this conversation with them. Second, talk about where the employee themselves is heading. This is a part a lot of managers avoid or rush through, and they shouldn't. You say something like, I want to understand where you see yourself going here. What are you hoping to grow into over the next quarter? Maybe questions like, what skills do you want to build next? What kind of work gives you the most energy right now? How do you feel this role fitting into your longer term goals? How does this quarter or what you're going to do in the next quarter contribute to your long term goals? And then listen. You're not promising promotions, you're not mapping out a 5 year plan, you're checking for alignment. When someone's goals and the reality of the role don't line up, that's one of the most predictable causes of turnover. And it's almost always visible early if you ask. Third, acknowledge what's going well. This part matters more than most leaders realized. You go first, be specific. Here's what I think you're doing especially well. Here are some things that I want you to keep doing. And then ask, so what's been going well for you? What are you seeing in there? What part of your jobs feel most satisfying right now? What's going well with your team or your teammates? And then listen carefully. Because what they name here is often your strongest retention lever. If someone loves mentoring others and later you isolate them, if you love problem solving and later you bury them in admin, if they love autonomy and then you give them a new project that requires a lot of micromanagement, engagement is going to drop fast. Stay interviews help you understand your employee and avoid breaking what's already working. Fourth, now we're getting to the fun stuff. Ask for key improvements. This is where managers get into trouble in these sorts of meetings. They ask something like, well, what could we be doing better over here? And suddenly they're drowning in issues. So set a boundaries. Hey, all right, next step. I'm looking not for a long list. I don't want a bunch of things. If there's one thing that would improve your work experience, what would it be? And then ask, maybe something like, what's your biggest friction point right now? If I could fix one thing for you, what should it be? Keep it tight. Listen without defending. This is not a moment to explain why something is hard or why you can't change or why it's someone else's fault. Even when the answer isn't immediately solvable, listening builds trust. Defensiveness destroys it. Listen. So you're trying to get them to focus on one item that if you can deliver them over the next 3 months, they're going to be happy, right? Then you can go a bit broader. Once you've got their focus narrowed, this is where you can kind of clarify some things on how you can help. So now that we've given what we talked about, is there something I can do personally to support you better? What would make your job easier or more effective? You might ask very specific questions if you've had this conversation before. Do you feel like you need more clarity, more feedback, or do you need more autonomy? Is there something you need more from me? Is there something I'm doing that gets in the way? If you could stop me from doing one thing, what would it be? And then listen. You're listening for prioritization, resources, training, decision making authority, communication patterns. And this is where you're going to see the pattern show up across teams. If you're doing this for your 6 or 7 direct reports, you may find a lot of them want the same thing. Okay? Finally, ask for not feedback, but what I like is this is a kind of corny thing, but feed forward. The wording matters. I'm not asking you to critique the past, but if there is one thing I could do differently going forward that would help you, what would it be? What should I do more of? What should I do less of? The majority of turnover comes from people leaving their manager, not leaving their job. Okay. So the number one effect of a stay interview is changing the behavior of the manager because they understand the employee more. They want the employee to succeed. So by understanding them and what they want, and just asking, you go, oh, you know what? I should treat this employee different than that employee. That variation in style allows you to double or even triple productivity. All right. A well-run stay interview, I'm talking 30 minutes. No hour-long meeting. Could expend if you got a real big talker on both sides, right? But you don't need slides, you don't need forms, you don't need a complicated prep. You need your 6 questions with an alternate or two to feel it out. And you need to, preferably, in the modern world of AI, record the meeting, take the transcripts, mash them together, and pull out key information for the team and key information for each employee. Okay? The most important part is what happened next. At the end of the conversation, you got to summarize what you heard, agree on 1 or 2 concrete actions, and then follow through. Next quarter, you can revisit that, and that's going to just tie your people to you. It's the fastest way to build that trust. Okay. You don't want to ask thoughtful questions and then do nothing. That will definitely hurt your plan. Okay. Employees will stop being honest very quickly. So when they see small, consistent follow through, trust compounds. So if the ask is really big, I want you to step it back and try and get concrete action you can agree to work on over the next quarter. Okay. Now, if you're an owner managing managers, this is your leverage point. You don't need to do these interviews yourself. You need to standardize the questions, train the managers on intent and not scripts, set expectations on scope, and require simple documentation. And then review these themes at the leadership level and practice what you preach. Make sure you're doing this with your executives. They're not just about individual employees, they surface the systematic problems in your organization. If multiple people say, this new product launch is confusing, that's not a people issue, that's a process issue. If several employees describe unclear priorities or too much going on at once, that's clarity problem. If recognition is highly inconsistent across teams, you got a training gap, right? Or you're missing a tool or process that allow your managers to reward great behavior. Stay interviews give you the insight into why people stay, why they struggle, why they leave before it's too late. I've seen this play out over and over. Companies that thought resignations came out of nowhere realized the signs were always there. They just didn't have a system to capture them. Managers who thought teams were fine, where friction was actually well alive and messing up their day. Founders who didn't want more HR complexity end up with better, without, putting in systematic processes because they don't want that HR complexity, miss these very easy, actionable items at the structural level. So I want you to put this in, to me, in your development of personnel management. There's your weekly one on one, right? The plans, progress, problems, and priorities meetings. We'll have another episode. If you guys are interested, ask questions below. That's how you manage the workforce and the people and the tasks and head off small behavioral issues before they're going on. I think the very next step is your quarterly stay interview, right? That's where you get to know and understand your employees and what they want out of their job and what they're looking for. Okay. I think it's the second most important piece outside of that weekly PPP meeting. And then you can get into performance reviews or engagement surveys, those sorts of items that give you even more information. But I would call this number 2. Okay. This is a leadership habit. Okay. If you're listening to this and thinking we should be doing this, but I don't know where to start, I've made this super easy. Go to the link in the description. It's going to take you to the People Processes Advisor platform. It's completely free for all of our library. You can download our stay interview guide, plus dozens of other leadership, HR, management tools we built specifically for owners and managers who want that clarity and consistency in their people processes. There is a paid version where we work with you and advise you and help you customize these things and interview and work with you, build a strategic plan, help you identify out of the hundreds of things to do what the next couple steps are. That's a paid service. But the free service is on there and you can just download and have access to our whole library. So check it out. It's down below. This is about small, repeatable systems that help others do their best work. That's how you can create leaders. It's a system of people processes. Stay interviews are one of the simplest, highest impact pieces to start. Now, don't HR alone. Go out there, get your work done. Have a great day, and I look forward to working with you. Talk to you soon.